Welcome to the PT Legends podcast, where co-host Dave Bess and myself, Scott Carpenter, share our journey and secrets of success. From our humble beginnings as personal training employees of a big box gym to struggling studio owners that have made every mistake in the book, to where we are now, the owners of a multi-seven-figure business operating multiple personal training studios internationally, and now coach and mentor to fitness professionals in 5 countries and counting. This is our story, and these are our secrets. Subscribe to our podcast, learn, take action, and build your own fitness empire. Welcome back to the PT Legends podcast. I am Scott.
Big Dave, clocking in,
Baby. Shoot, our podcasts are getting up there. We're getting quite a few in.
Are we at 40?
Somewhere around there. Close, maybe.
Close.
I don't know. But yeah, so we've done a decent amount, and we've been a guest on a fair amount of podcasts too. And I have to say, it's fun as hell. I could do them all day. No doubt about it. And so what we wanted to do was share some of our knowledge with you as we started to do this, and we've been on quite a few. So today we're going to talk about how to be a guest on a podcast and how to be a good guest on a podcast. Some of you have done some and loved it. Some of you had thought, wow, I listen to podcasts all the time. That'd be amazing to be a guest. And so I want to share like how you can be a guest on a podcast. And it is so much fun. But number one, find the right audience, okay? Make sure if it's for a purpose, if you're there to connect, interact, potentially pick up leads, get your name out there, make sure the podcast that you're on shares your audience. So you want to do the research on that. And it's pretty easy, right? You guys all have Google and you can kind of look through that. But yeah, find what shows match your audience for the message that you want. Now, there's an exception to that though. If you've never been on a podcast and you want to get some reps in, some experience in, because it's kind of scary at first, isn't it?
It is. Especially when you're a guest on one. When you're a guest on one, it's like when we started ours, we just started like gunslinging it.
Yeah, we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
But when you're invited on, it's like, okay, like it's a different animal.
Yeah, it is a little bit. So if you want to do it just for reps, great, just get on anything. But the first step is, really find out what are the shows that you want to be on, which brings it to number 2. So once you have that, know what their audience is and what that podcast host wants to bring to that audience, right? Look at the guests that they have on, what they do. And number 2 is what you need to do is write out a summary of your talking points. So if you are a guest on a show and they're interviewing you, you want to be able to quickly tell them what that listener is going to know after the episode, during that episode. So there could be 4, 5, 6, 7 different talking points, right? And what they're going to learn and know after that episode. So that's the main thing. Some people, the worst ones that ask to be on shows, they're like, oh, I'd love to be on your show. Okay. And you could ask, what do you want to talk about? And they're like, well, what should I talk about? What do you want to talk about? Wrong. That's the wrong answer, right? They're not going to have you on just because you're brilliant if you don't have any clear value to bring or any clear talking points. But that's how a lot of people approach something like that. And another thing, this kind of leads into 3 is to pitch. You need to pitch that podcast host because there's a lot of work that goes into it, right? And it's not just jumping on a podcast and rolling from there. They've got to do show notes at the end, so they're going to need bio links, maybe some photos, all these kind of things. So when you have your talking points, you want to clearly have that out and email them or message them and have it laid out on how you're going to be beneficial to that audience, what you're going to bring to the table, what they're going to know. And then you want to have links to your bio so they know you're legit. They know that you're a business owner. If you're a multiple 7-figure business owner, you better put that in there because they're going to have a lot more faith that you are legit.
Yep.
Because here's the thing, when they have you on as a guest, it's kind of their reputation on the line too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, we don't want to have anybody on just ours. We want somebody that's going to bring some value or that's credible, right? That's
Man, if you get the wrong guest,
yeah,
this is crazy. So this happened in, I think, 2008. So you know Joe Buck? He's like a big he's an announcer. Like he
did the Cubs after he took over.
His dad was Jack Buck. It was
wait. Oh, no. Joe Buck, he's NFL, right?
He's NFL. Yeah. He does everything. He's so he just signed a big contract to be the head announcer on Monday Night Football. And so I'm reading up on like an article, and basically they're like, man, it all came crashing down in 2008 for Joe Buck. So it turns out he had his own show on HBO. The pilot episode of it, he had the wrong guest. So Artie Lang, who is on Howard Stern.
Yep.
This, I don't know if we can say this on the podcast, but this happened in 2008, and Artie Lang said this. He said this on Joe Buck. So can you imagine your first podcast, and you bring on this guy, and he's talking about how he hates the Cowboys, and he said, and you could say this in 2008, I guess. Like, it took me back. I was listening to it. He's like, I am a known homophobic. So he says this on Joe Buck's first episode. Joe Buck's, it was canceled after 3. He only lasted 3. So that shows you, if you get the wrong guest on a podcast and they're a gunslinger and they start saying things that you can't say.
Yeah.
So that's living proof of you need to have, like you said, that when you reach out to podcasts, is that what you do? Do you say, okay, here's exactly what we're going to talk about? Do you lay it on a plate for them?
So, and what I would give them is a suggested one, right? And here's boom, 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 boom. Here's what they leave. Normally, that's exactly what they're going to want to go with, but they might have different ideas too, which is totally fine, right? But yeah, you want to give them something and let them know like how that's going to benefit their listeners, because that podcast host wants to attract listeners.
Now, is this for someone cold? Are you saying like, hey, I want to be on this person's podcast. I don't know them.
Yep.
Here's this email. Hey, I'm going to be your guest. This is what I want to talk about. This is the value that I can bring.
Yep. That's a cold thing. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And then you have links in there, like have links to your, if you have a website, put that in there. If you have a LinkedIn, put that in there, right? Show that you are accomplished in these different ways and you are credible. If you really want to get bonus points on a cold outreach, make a video, make a 1 to 2 minute video with saying whoever that podcast name, whoever's doing it. So, hey, Mark, I'm Scott Carpenter, and you just go from there, right? And summarize these things really quickly. So that would get their attention, right? Would it get your attention if you're a podcast host?
Yep.
It would get mine if I got an email like that. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, they're coming on the podcast. If someone does exactly what you said, verbatim, they're going to be a guest on our podcast.
Yeah.
Here's the value that I can bring. I've been in the industry this long. A personalized video says a lot.
Yep. It does. It doesn't take much effort, guys. Record something on your laptop, with just a whatever like that, or your phone. I mean, it 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and then put in your talking points, and I mean, you're good.
Isn't it crazy? Any lead that comes to us because of our podcast, it's so much more of an enjoyable PC because like they've listened to you. So this is, and I know in a couple more episodes we'll talk about, Facebook marketing.
Mm-hmm.
What a great strategy getting on podcasts and getting out there and then just delivering value. So it's not the gimmicky, nonsense that none of us like doing. It's just like, let me get on here and talk about what I'm really passionate about. And like you said, if you get on the right podcast where there's some collaboration going on both ends, maybe they're going to be a guest on your podcast next. That's my favorite leads. The ones that are like, hey, I've listened to 17 of your guys' podcasts.
Those
then they get it, right?
Are the greatest. They know who we are. They know what we're about. They know our personalities. They didn't come to us from some shitty ad we ran for PT Legends about making boatloads of money in your gym. Is it legit? Yes. Do I feel like a douchebag if we would ever run one of those? Yep. Yes. We haven't done it.
Not yet.
But, I just, there's so many slime balls, pretenders that are taking your money that have no idea what they're doing. And it's just greasy. So, but you're right. I mean, when people have come to us from our podcast, it's like they know us already. And when we start having a conversation, I feel like I know them already. It's really cool. And any lead that comes from podcasts are going to be the best leads you've ever gotten in your life. Fact.
Especially if you have an avatar client that you really love working with.
Right.
Like, get on there and get on your soapbox and deliver some amazing value.
Yeah. And guys, so yeah, you probably listen to some big ones and you probably listen to some smaller ones, right? There are millions of podcasts out there. It has exploded, especially since COVID. Okay. Especially since COVID. So there are a lot that you can find and get on. Just do some searching, do some looking. And, if you're going to pitch them to be a guest, pitch it right. It doesn't take very long to get this stuff in order. It doesn't. Just organize your thoughts, right? Provide your credentials and credibility and make that pitch. And, okay, step 4, if we're going to add in step 4, it's follow up. Follow up. You are going to not hear back from some people. It's because they've already got their queue there. It's because maybe it's a bigger podcast. You don't have enough credentials or blah, blah, blah. But bottom line is, if you follow up, you're going to double, triple, quadruple your chances of getting on that show. I mean, that's it. So just put in a little bit of work to do the prep and you'll get on shows. And again, these will be, any leads that you get from this, any exposure will be the best that you possibly can, because they're going to get to know, like, and trust you in a way you can't do from an ad, in the way you can't do from a post or even a little video segment, right?
And you get another part of it is you get amazing content out of it too.
Yes.
Right? I mean, getting our little 30-second, we get a lot of our content for PT Legends because we send it over to our team. And then when I get on my soapbox or you get on your soapbox, boom. So it knocks out a lot of birds with one stone getting on a podcast.
It does. You get a lot of content. It boosts your authority level. No doubt about it. Right. So there's a lot of great things. And it doesn't mean you have to start your own podcast necessarily. If you do, maybe we'll do another podcast on how to do a podcast. But you don't necessarily have to just start your own. You can be a guest on it. So that's it. We're going to leave you with that. So get out there, get to it. Search for it, put in the work, and make your pitch. That's it, guys. See you next week on the PT Legends podcast. Dave and myself, Scott, would love to thank you for tuning in and listening to the PT Legends podcast. You can get direct access to us by joining our free Facebook group. Go to www.facebook.com/groups/7-figure personal trainer. That's 7-figure personal trainer with the number 7. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you can keep on learning and keep on living. Finally, if you picked up any tips whatsoever in this episode that you found helpful, be sure to leave us a review and tell us what you like best about it. Can't wait to see you on the next episode.